meeting to order. We are live streaming, confirmation.
We are live streaming and recording.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Johnson, can you please confirm that we have quorum?
Good morning, we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The last meeting of the subcabinet was in May. The May meeting was recorded, and that recording is available on the website. As such, there will be no meeting minutes to be approved. So at this time, is there a motion to accept the agenda? It is before you on the screen. Motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks. Any discussion? All in favor? We have in favor online. Thank you. We have some members of the subcabinet that are with us virtually today. Welcome. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. We will move forward. At this time, Brian, for the Maryland Center School Safety updates.
Great, thank you. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. So I'm just going to run through some of the high-level things that have been happening, with the exception of some of the programs we're going to talk about as we move through the agenda. So we're incredibly honored that at our conference in July, we presented Corporal Kieran Harrison, the School Resource Officer of the Year. So we were very excited. We had him. We surprised him with his fiance and his daughter and his command staff, and it was very exciting. So he's been with Howard County Police Department for 9.5 years, and he's currently assigned to Howard High School. So that was very exciting for all of us. As we move forward into our next school year, we're also going to be doing a School Resource Officer of the Year again for next year, but we're also going to be identifying a School Security Employee of the Year for the conference for next year. So both of those are both very exciting. As you can see up on the screen, for the 2025 calendar year, so we do this a little differently for these numbers because of the way the training works. But we've trained to date 47 school resource officers. Those are new trainees, and we've trained 108 school security employees. Again, those are new trainees. The team is actually in Southern Maryland, correct?
Yep.
Today, training, and I don't remember the number in the class right now. But
19 at the moment.
19, so we'll have 19 more by Friday of this week, so also very exciting. And I think we talked about this in our February meeting and again in our May meeting, but the team put together in-service training for all of our trainees. And so that was completed in March of last year, and we trained 1,229 school resource officers and SSE, school security employees, in the in-service training. We'll be doing that again this year. We expect that number to obviously be higher because we'll include all of the already trained SROs as well as the ones we trained this year. So that number, that 1,229, will probably go up a little bit this year. Next slide. So some updates, let's see, for Safe Schools Maryland. So Safe Schools Maryland, our anonymous reporting system for the school year. So that's July 1 to June 30th. We've had 1,254 tips. I'll just give you the top 3 categories. We're continuing to see general school complaints and school accountability as the top tip coming in. We had about 166 of those. And then these are 3 separate, but assault or intent to harm others, planned school attack, and bullying or cyberbullying. We had 126, 101, and 100 respectively. So, you know, we're continuing to see an increase in our tips year after year. We actually did some data analysis. We had an intern here over the school year helping us with some tip line data analysis. And our numbers the first 6 years of the tip line are pretty consistent with the ramp up that Colorado saw. So when Colorado launched their tip line the first 6 years, there was sort of a slow progression of tips coming in over those 6 years, and then it ramped up to where they are now, which if we get to 10,000 a year, that would be pretty interesting, but we'll have to see. Handle with Care. So Handle with Care is meeting quarterly with the local Handle with Care representatives. They're also going to be meeting, so they're continuing their meetings. Their next meeting is next week. So this is Don Corbin with Department of Education, as well as Brett Flory with our team. So they are meeting with those local Handle with Care representatives to ensure that we can eventually get all 24 jurisdictions to be participating in Handle with Care. We're working on the School Safety Leadership Academy. We ran the pilot last year. We learned a lot from that pilot. We'll be implementing and relaunching that training program again for next year. And then we're continuing to do our threat assessment work. We've been doing some one-on-one technical assistance with some of our school systems throughout the state. We're partnering in our attempt to enhance their proactive measures, facilitating early intervention, and promoting safe learning environments for school and staff. Bless you. So any questions on our current programs that we're running? Anything you're interested in, like to hear about more?
I have a question.
Sure.
The SROs and the school security employees, what is the balance in numbers? You have the numbers of those who were trained, 47 and 108.
That's for last year. Mm-hmm.
But they're the ones who were trained last year. What's the overall?
The overall count? So I'm going to forget the SRO count for last year, but I think the total SRO count was about 430. Jan, am I close?
Yeah, so 445 is the number of SROs in the state of Maryland.
And then the number of SSEs, which is not a public report, we keep that, we don't publicize that. That's about a little over 1,000 of them. I might be overshooting that number, but.
It's okay. Just curious.
Yeah, and I like to bring that point up a lot, right? Because I think there is a perception that there is an SRO in every public school in the state. So 1,425 public schools, there's an SRO in every one. That is not the case, right? There are 400 SROs. There's about 280-ish schools that have an assigned SRO. So the number is not as high as everyone assumes. A lot of the school systems are going with supplementing those teams with security personnel.
So the important thing is that we have them. We have SROs, but there are another large group of security individuals in schools hired by the local school system.
That is correct.
So,
Yep.
Thanks. I just
Yeah,
wanted to
absolutely.
have that number. I'm good.
Kate, can you go to, yeah, okay, so on the tip line, you said, what was the number one?
Oh, complaint?
Yeah.
So it's general school complaint or school accountability. So concerns about the way the school is implementing policy, or a particular teacher didn't follow a certain protocol. So it's a really wide, it's a big category, which is why it gets a lot of tips. And the categories are selected by the tipster.
Right.
So, if they don't find a category that maybe fits exactly with what their tip is, they a lot of times pick that.
And we get a lot of those also. So we should, Brad, who presented at the conference, is one who deals with the same kinds of complaints.
Concerns, complaints.
That we address.
MCSS.
Yes, we have Laura Torres online. Raise your hand.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I was just wondering if you could provide a little bit more detail about what the SRO training consists of.
Sure.
Sure, be glad to. Ron Pierce, Regional Manager, I'm also the one that takes care of training and certification for us. So it began as there were some mandates in the Safe to Learn Act, about 5 different categories of things that were required to be taught in a model SRO training program that we had to develop and then run past MPCTC, the Maryland Police Training Commission, get approved by them, and that had to be given to, before the, let's see, it was the 1920 school year, had to be given to all the staff, all the SSEs, and all the SROs who work in schools in the state of Maryland. We managed to do that through a lot of effort and about, I think, almost 20 different classes. But there were, the first iteration was 40 hours and included training on restorative practices, trauma-informed interventions, implicit bias was one of the classes that was required. And we had other courses on, initially on single officer response to active threats, which was something the commission asked us to put in initially. And a number of other classes on getting into the classroom, interactions with juveniles. School law was one of the courses that was required. And after that initial 2019 push to get all the SROs trained, we went back. Because the class has to be recertified every 3 years, the latest iteration was just done, just launched this year. It's now 54 hours, so it's increased in size. We have many of the same courses, but we've actually added to some of them to make them just from being awareness level to actually practitioner level. Restorative practice is one of those classes. So it's a full day. It's enabling them to participate in circles and those types of things when they go to their schools. We want them to be part of that. And official interactions with juveniles is another one we fleshed out, along with de-escalation was one of the ones that we've lengthened to add some other tactics that would help them in the hallways and the cafeterias deal with some of the kids. And it's really just about educating them about the environment, about how children think, about how they think differently than adults do, and then how to deal with that in that kind of environment within the legal boundaries that they have. One of the main things we push is they have no role in discipline. I think that's really important. We stress that over and over again. They're not school administrators. They're not school staff. That's the school's job. They're not to deal with those types of things really in an official capacity. That's really not for the school to do. They're only there. They use their authority when a crime has occurred, and there can be some gray areas. So we go over what those are. What's a crime and what's not a crime. So they know what to do in certain situations that are going to come up. Hope that helps.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you so much.
And following the meeting, I will share with you, so on our website, we actually have a document that describes each of the courses that are part of the training academy. So I'll send that to you after this meeting.
I was going to mention too, Kate, to your numbers. So I just went back real quick and added. So since inception, we've trained 804 SROs, and we've trained 1,169 SSEs. So that's since 2019.
That's a lot of training.
And as a reminder, training by 6 staff.
I think that that's really important, though, that folks hear, because there is, as you were saying, thinking, but, there's, as a former practitioner in a school, I was very appreciative of having an SRO. Some get concerned, but I think your message is consistent that they are not part of the discipline. It's not what they're there for, although they are a presence in the school.
Right.
And they generally have really good relationships with kids.
We work a lot on how to build those kinds of relationships and trust, and how to speak to kids and be supportive.
Yeah.
And because that's in some studies that I've read, it's really, really important in being able to prevent school violence. Because if someone trusts an officer, an SRO well enough to tell them about something they see as a problem, they think could be a problem, that's how in 30% of cases where they avert some kind of school violence, that was the reason, was because the SRO was there and somebody trusted enough to tell them.
Good point. Thank you. All right. Very good. Anything else, Kate?
No.
All right. Then we will go to Ms. McNeil.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jessica McNeil, and I'm the co-chair of our Prepare conference that we hold on an annual basis. And I just wanted to go over this year's conference and provide you all with some information. In each of your packets, you would have received a copy of our brochure from the conference. It just gives you kind of an overview of the event itself, some of our speakers, and different activities we had going on. For this year's conference, we had over 620 people registered and 480 in attendance. We did see a lot of cancellations for the conference, just people calling in due to budget constraints and personnel constraints. So that did affect our numbers somewhat. We asked our presenters to reflect on the evolution of school safety, both personally and professionally, over the last 25 years since the Columbine tragedy. We had some really great speakers this year and presenters, which included Max Schaester, who did a presentation on turning pain into purpose. He lost his son, was murdered during the Parkland tragedy. We also had Tenon Tamia Woods, who did a presentation on cyber enticements and its dangers. They lost their only child to suicide, who was a victim of sextortion. We had Ian Lopez, who did lessons learned in lockdown. And that session talked about the importance of involving the stakeholders and leaders in drills and building the relationship between the emergency management personnel. We also had Justin Safer, who talked about the Luton High School manifesto, threat or fiction. That was about the 129-page manifesto written by a Montgomery County student. And they went through, just the session examined the intervention methods that were used, investigation, the criminal case, and subsequent prosecution. So that just gives you just just a few of the highlighted sessions that we had for this year's conference. In addition to that, we had some new offerings this year, which Kate talked about, the SRO of the Year, which we're very excited about, which we had over 24 nominees. People nominated for SRO of the Year, which was from 16 different organizations and within 12 jurisdictions within the state. The process involved 2 members of our training staff as well as 3 members of our advisory board who took part of the evaluation process to pick the person who was awarded that. In addition to that, we also offered Stop the Bleed training during our conference. We had 4 sessions of Stop the Bleed training for all school personnel, and we had over 139 people, school personnel, that was actually trained and certified in Stop the Bleed during our conference. So we thought that was very successful as well. I look forward to having, hopefully we get back again next year. In addition to that, we had our conference approved for continuing education and professional development credits. We were approved for in-service hours through MPCTC for law enforcement. We were also approved for professional development hours for school psychologists through NASP. And we were approved for continuing education hours through the National Board of Certified Counselors. So they were new this year. It's the first year that we were able to get any of our sessions approved for that. We do still run into challenges with the National Association of Social Workers in getting some approval credits for them, social workers who are coming to the conference to get continuing education credits. We think that we may have a way around that. We're exploring opportunities and possibly partnering with Anne Arundel County, who is a NASW approved provider in the state of Maryland. So we are going to be beginning conversations with them to see if we can somehow work with them to get credits offered for social workers as well next year. And then, of course, we have our lovely art showcase, which you all will see. The art is on display behind us. Community Heroes was our theme this year. These are the submissions from students around the state within the different jurisdictions in both elementary, middle, and high school. We do 3 grade groups, elementary 3 through 5, middle 6 through 8, and high school 9 through 12. We allow the conference attendees anonymously vote to choose the first, second, and third place prize, and then those winners do receive a prize from MCSS. They'll be coming by, actually today we invite their parents to a little reception. They'll be coming by to get their prizes and their awards and take pictures. In addition to that, we also take their artwork and we try to exhibit it around the state in different opportunities so people can see it. So beginning, I believe, the 25th of August through the 13th of September, the artwork will be on display at MSDE in the front lobby. We come in by the elevators. The week of September 7th, it actually is Art and Education Week. So we will be working along with MSDE, who will be adding some additional materials and things in conjunction with this exhibit for that week as well. We also typically exhibit at the State House in Maryland. We are waiting to get approval on that because the chair, they're actually having conversations mid-September, October, if they're going to continue to allow art in the State House any longer due to some problems with some other exhibits. So we will hear from them if that's going to happen or not. But just in case it doesn't, we also reached out to the art councils within the jurisdictions of the first, second, and third place winners to see if they'd be willing to exhibit at some of their local facilities for at least a week to just give the showcase to the children's art, as well as we use it on our in our newsletters and through our site and everything to give them that exposure. Finally, just to talk about future conferences, we've already begun preparing for Prepare 2026. We are in contract discussions now. We hope to continue to be at Turf Valley for the next 3 years. And if that is the case, then the conference will be the week of July 20th. But we are working to finalize those details. Are there any questions? Sorry if I talked too fast.
Report that I received, as I was saying to Kate, was great from our team members who attended. They always complimented. And I have 2 Stop the Bleed certificates in personnel files because they came back with their papers and said, I'm certified in Stop the Bleed. So I it's out there, filed away.
Yeah, it was very successful. We hope we can do stuff.
They were just tickled. Good. They were very proud. All right, thank you. So statewide tabletop exercises, Ms. Bryant and Ms.
So I'll start, and then if you want to talk about the specifics. So this is something, tabletop exercises are near and dear to my heart. So I am a master exercise practitioner with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. That was my when I started with the state, this is what I did. So I am a huge proponent of practicing, right? So we don't just have plans and put them on a shelf. We actually should be walking through them on a regular basis, even if that walking through is not physical, right? Where we're just talking through how the communication and coordination works. So last year we launched our first statewide tabletop exercise in May, and that was for our public school systems. In August of the same year, we had a tabletop exercise for our non-public special education facilities in the state. Also very successful. And we've had since 2 more public school tabletop exercises, one in October and the other in, it was like half of February and half of March because of the snow. We had to adjust the date. But all have been incredibly successful. We've gotten really good feedback. We do as much as we can do to sort of take the difficult challenges of putting on a tabletop exercise away from the schools and the school systems, right? So we develop the material, we give them the material, we give them the questions. So really what they're dealing with locally is logistics, getting a facility, getting people invited, getting them in the room, and facilitation at the local level. And beyond that, our team does the rest of the work. So do you want to talk about the two that are coming up next week?
Yep. So actually, recently, so this past spring, have sort of transitioned the MCSS side of the work to Ja Coates and Britt Flory also. So Ja and Britt have been really supporting the summer efforts as well. So what will be the second non-public special education tabletop activity, again in August. So we have stayed with that sort of end of August timeline for them, working really closely with the Maryland State Department of Education division that really oversees these schools, as well as our Department of Disabilities. So Secretary Beatty has been great in allowing us to use Cecilia, who's very advantageous. So currently we have 45 schools scheduled to attend on the August 20th date, so it's actually next Wednesday. So this year what we did, we've heard from many of our private schools that they would also like to participate in some manner, and we've heard that. So actually we're scheduling 2 back-to-back sessions. So on Wednesday, we will be specifically having our non-public special education schools attend. We're going to use the same scenario for both, but then on Thursday for our private school and other non-public school audience to join in. What we did learn last year, so it's going to be run the same way we've done the public school, where MCSS live streams the exercise out to anyone that is participating. They're then sitting in there, for our non-public schools, private schools, in their school, generally sitting in their school with the team. That could be 2 people, or it could be, we saw last year, actually they did it as a staff meeting. One particular school had all staff at the table and used it as an opportunity to practice their plan. So that's really kind of up to them, how they go about doing it. What we found last year in doing the non-public, a little different from our public school event, was they weren't as, for whatever reason, they didn't participate in the brief out section as robustly as our public school group did. And so this year we plan to actually make it a little more instructional. So when we do the brief out section after each inject, we're actually going to use it as an opportunity to sort of say, these are some of the things you should have thought about. So really an opportunity for us to advance the standard response protocol, hold, lockdown, right? Making those decision makings, who you're communicating with. So a little more sort of direct instruction with these 2 audiences, which we feel is important. They don't always have the robust security staff that our public schools do, so they don't necessarily have that opportunity to be engaging in training and exercise in that manner as much. So hopefully that works. We'll see how that goes this year, and we can always adjust for next year as well. Yeah, questions on that? We currently, so actually on the private school side, we currently have 12 schools signed up. What we know was this day conflicts with, so our Archdiocese has a new superintendent this year, and it conflicts with a big leadership day that's being hosted by those folks. So that private school side doesn't really include a lot of our Archdiocese schools. So we have offered to be able to host a separate event for them at some point in time during the year that kind of meets their needs as well.
Is that the Archdiocese of Baltimore?
Yeah, or I do believe, like throughout the state, we don't have any of our Catholic schools have signed up.
There's also the Archdiocese of Washington. If you need a contact, we can give that to you. Yeah. Alex would have it.
No, that, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Because they do cover a number of LEAs. So you might think about Archdiocese of Washington.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be a good
They're
contact.
active in the non-public Do you come to the non-public
Mhm.
work group?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we appreciate, this is a great partnership activity, honestly. Lots of work that happens combined with everyone.
Good job. Right. Good. So the next item is the Safe Schools Fund Grant. Dee?
Good morning. So the fiscal year 26 Safe Schools Fund Grant application opened June 16th, and it's going to stay open until September 30th. So far, we have received 4 applications. We've returned 1 because it was incomplete in terms of the application requirements. Just for reference, the allocation per LEA is still $25,000, which is where the funding has been since fiscal year 22. So for review today are 3 applications from Baltimore City Public Schools, Carroll County Public Schools, and Queen Anne's County Public Schools. So I will start with Baltimore City Public Schools request. So Baltimore City Public Schools is requesting to use their fiscal year 26 Safe Schools Fund Grant allocation to purchase security cameras and install them at the St. Clair Lane Elementary School. They currently have new school administrators, and they have identified some security surveillance gaps in the building. They are requesting $13,315 in order to pursue this project. And just attached to the packets that you received, you have the budget sheet, which is the itemized budget sheet, and you have a narrative, and also the proposal from the vendor that will be completing the project. Any questions on this one?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So they're leaving a lot of money on the table here.
Yes.
Are they likely to come back and ask for another round, or?
So they do have the option to do that,
Okay.
because this is a non-competitive grant. So they do have the option to request the full allocation. Although I have to say, I also appreciate the fact that they're very specific with their request, given where the state's fiscal outlook is. But yes, absolutely, they have the option of doing that. As a matter of fact, because this was so specific to this school, my goal is to reach back out to the point of contact and see if they have need elsewhere that they could use the funding for.
Great.
Do you need a motion on anyone, on each one of us?
Unless you want to do them as a group, it's up to you all. There's only 3.
Yeah, there's only 3. What is doing as a group?
Yeah, because then you can pull it out you can pull one out if you feel there's a
Yeah,
problem.
okay, let's move and do all 3, and then we'll go back to the
All right. So with that, we will move to Carroll County Public Schools request. This again is a repeat request from prior years. So the Carroll County Public School is requesting to continue to use their fiscal year 2026 Safe Schools Fund Grant allocation to provide psychiatric services in conjunction with individual and family therapy to high-risk students and students in crisis. Just as they've done in prior years, they will contract with the Carroll County Youth Services Bureau. This is going to be specifically for contracted services that include about 15 psychiatric evaluations, 45 psychiatric follow-up visits, 15 diagnostic assessments, and 75 therapeutic monitoring services in conjunction with psychiatric services. They're requesting the full allocation of $25,000. And again, just as in previous years, the contract will begin July 1 of 2026 and end on December 31st, 2026, which all fall within the performance period of the fiscal year 26 Safe Schools Fund Grant. Any questions on this before we move to Queen Anne's County?
So So I just have a question. So they have this amount of money, which incorporates approximately 15 psychiatric evaluations and so on that's there. So they use these funds for what is available, I guess, until those, they get to their limit. Is that correct?
Right.
So they don't, okay.
Yes,
It's
so
available to them.
it is available to them, and on a quarterly basis, they pay about $62.50 for these services. So if you look at the packet, the specific service delivery, the number of service delivery, it's all included in the scope of work. And so again, in prior years, the contract is very specific in terms of what the Safe Schools Fund grant is able to cover for it. But yes, we do get a reimbursement request on a quarterly basis from them.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, Queen Anne. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I mentioned it. Did I hear that it's a 6-month grant, that it's a July to December?
No, actually, it's an 18-month grant, so it starts in July 1 and ends the following December. So the Safe Schools
I
Fund-
see.
Yeah, so this is July 1 of this year until December of next year. But specifically to Carroll County's request, this contract will become effective January 1, 2026 to December 31st, 2026, which falls within the purview of the performance period for the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, Queen Anne's.
Yes. So Queen Anne's is asking to use their $25,000 allocation to supplement the onboarding of 2 school security employees. This funding is also being supplemented with the school resource officer grant. So we have received application from them essentially for the same request. But they will be using their fiscal year 26 Safe Schools Fund grant to supplement 2 school security employee salary positions. The salary per school security employee is projected at $55,000, $120. And again, this is for 2 positions. The $25,000 will be funded from the Safe Schools Fund grant, and the difference, which is about $98,000 or so, will be funded with the School Resource Officer grant, which of course is not part of this request, but specifically for their FY26 Safe Schools Fund grant, they're requesting to use the full $25,000 to cover their SSC salaries.
Any questions on Queen Anne's? All right, then, let's, do we have a motion to accept the applications from all 3, Baltimore City, Carroll County, and Queen Anne's County?
Motion to accept all 3 application requests.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes for all 3 approval. Thank you very much. Nice and clear. Now we are looking at House Bill 416 in 2024. Ms. Ryan and Ms. Bucking.
So, 2024 legislative session passed House Bill 416, put some requirements on our office, some requirements on the Department of Education, as well as requirements on our local education agencies. All the requirements for the first year we met, so that included developing active shooter or lockdown drill guidance for the LEAs. So we completed that and published that in October of last year. We partnered with the University of Maryland National Center for School-Based Mental Health, longest acronym ever. But we partnered with them to help us in our literature review, in our survey of students, staff, as well as parents who participate in lockdown or active assailant drills. As we move into the next school year, we're actually going to have a presentation from them about all the data they collected in the last year. But the other requirements fall to the LEAs, and there are some very specific requirements in the statute of activities and things, deliverables that the LEAs have in preparation at the start of every school year. And so I'll have Kim sort of go through what the requirements are, and then we're happy to answer really any questions that you have.
Yep, so the start of the school year is every LEA must publish a schedule of their intended calendar for when they'll be doing a lockdown drill, an active shooter safety drill or training. So what was determined kind of after a variety of revisions to House Bill 416 was that it doesn't need to give the exact day, but it must be a schedule by month, right? So the LEA would say in the month of October, there will be a lockdown drill that occurs, right, within, Fort Meade High School. So when the training would happen, at a minimum month, they could do it by week, by day if they really wanted to, but the legislation says that they have to notify what month it would be at the very least. The kind of drill or training that would happen in that month, and then how students, staff, and parents will be told about the drill beforehand. So there is a requirement, I'll come back to the slide, but there is a requirement that students and staff are informed the day of. So prior to the drill occurring, students and staff must be notified so that they know they're engaging in a drill, that it's not an actual event. And then parents must be notified after the lockdown drill occurs. So as those students are going home at some point in time, right, when students are arriving back in their house, mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles need to know that a lockdown drill occurred that day so they can then process, they can be aware of any questions and information, right, to help share in that dialogue. Schools must be, so actually number 4 here, they must be able to provide mental health follow-up support to students who need additional support following a drill. So this really requires them, number 1, to identify what students may be impacted in a more, may be more impacted than other students, right? So a student who may have been involved in violence in their life or had been at a school where an event had occurred, right? To know who these students are so that they can be much more mindful about working with them in advance of a drill, after a drill, to really kind of do that check-in. And then particularly, it's in there are students who have particular disabilities that would predispose them to respond in a more extreme manner than other students, right? So really being mindful of who these students are and staff, right? So we have to recognize that staff may have been in a school where an event has happened, be themselves the victim of violence. So knowing what it is we need to do to make sure we're making these events as least traumatizing as possible. And then so the other element at the start of the school year, so sometime now in the next month, right, every public school system must make available to parents and guardians the firearm storage law information. We have created a flyer. We have sent that flyer to everyone. It is available online. That gives information around what the law in Maryland is around safe firearm storage. And really recommending that folks use that. There are 1 or 2 other systems that have something very similar that contains the exact same information, could again be used instead of the MCSS document. But the law says at the beginning of every school year, parents and guardians shall be sent a safe firearm storage law informational publication of some sort. And then, so just, I don't think we have a slide on this survey. Oh, we do, actually. So a little bit on this survey. So we talked, if you remember, Jerica Knox from the National Center has joined us at these meetings a couple of times now as we were developing the survey. The survey was sort of released publicly to our schools and asked them to send it out in really February of last year. So it was a little late. There were many schools that had already done their required lockdown drill in the fall that didn't necessarily have to disseminate the survey. So the data that's there is very preliminary. It really did help us sort of tease out some of the way we had the questions phrased or any little minor anomalies in the survey. So really feel very good about what we're starting the school year with. But there has been some very interesting preliminary data, so Jerica will join us in the future to share that as well. But that survey must be distributed to students, to staff, and to caregivers. So each one of those surveys is slightly unique in the type of questions that are there. For our elementary students, if you are a parent of an elementary student, you have questions embedded in your survey that speaks to your child's experience, right? So did your child come home from school and appear frightened, anxious, afraid, right? Whereas a middle or high school student is being asked those questions themselves in their survey. The survey is available for folks to look at online. Anybody can download it and take a look at those questions. They're not private questions. Staff are really, the surveys are kind of, did they have adequate notice, right? Do they feel prepared in order to effectively guide their students during a lockdown drill situation? The school administrator survey is very unique in that the school administrator is providing information about the lockdown drill, right? So that is the only place in the school administrator where we get some sort of identifiable, right? So I'm the Fort Meade High School principal. We did a lockdown drill on August 11th, right, at 9 o'clock, and just some, generalities related to the drill. What it can then allow us to do is when we start to get, on August 11th, some student data, right, from Fort Meade High School, we can sort of connect those kind of two a little bit. In the student, we do have sort of grade, so we can break it out by 6th grade students, right, are maybe more impacted than 11th grade students, et cetera, kind of thing. We've gotten some great, there's an opportunity, so our students actually did participate in some focus conversations when we were preparing it, and they had recommended that we added some narrative opportunities, which actually have been incredibly valuable. The information we're getting that people are sort of writing in has been really interesting, too. I think that's it.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Kim. Very good. So the next is another House Bill, 782, and that is a study, and that is Ms. Bryant and Mr. Bruce.
So I'll just talk a little bit about sort of where we are now from a structural reporting standpoint, and then I'll have Ron sort of talk about the first part of the study. So the study was really two parts. So it's an evaluation or a survey with our local school systems to identify what weapons detection systems they're currently using. And then a requirement for us to do sort of give them feedback, right? Or make an assessment of, are they using it effectively? Is it effective in their school system? So the first year, which I'll show in the timing, we've got a report due December 1st and then a report due December 1st of 2026. And there's a bunch of sort of steps along the way. But Ron, if you want to talk through sort of the engagement with the LEAs to start.
Sure. So the stage we're in at the moment is kind of like getting a landscape of what's currently in use. We go a bit beyond that. We ask, okay, if you don't have anything in place yet, have you researched some of these types of technologies? And where did you research it? Was it with peers? Was it with vendors? And if you don't have anything yet, what's holding you back? Or if you've just decided not to use, you're not going to have them, what led to that decision, that kind of thing. So there's a little bit more to it than just what's out there, which I think was sort of what the bill basically said, but we want to gather just a bit more information to help evaluate the systems themselves, because really it's going to be anecdotal. They're telling us what they think of this as they're using it, if they have some in place. And we've gotten 23 out of 24 LEAs returned the survey, the initial survey that talked about what have you got, and then tell us how that's working, basically. And then if you don't have anything, what have you done? How far have you gone with looking into this? So we got one more left to pick up, and then we're having meetings with each of them. We're about 25% done with the meetings at this point. We've got about 6 of them that we've completed. And then it asks a bit more information. So we get a bit more into looking at their answers, if we have to flesh out a little bit more information on some of the non-technical and some of the more technical stuff. That's going to be a part of the second report that's due next year. A little bit, we dig a little bit deeper on the technology. How long, for instance, how long does it take to get all your student body through this metal detector if you're using it? And then how long or how much time or how many people are needed to do secondary searches if there's a positive, or if there's a false positive in one of these devices. What's the procedure and how long does that take? Does it take extra people? Is this something you do there, or do you have to take somebody to a separate area? There's a lot of questions. So we're plowing through that, and we'll have something out in this before December probably, initially on what's available, what folks think of it. And at this point, most of the responses most folks don't have and don't use these things just yet. Number of reasons. Probably cost is one. And there's some public sentiment. I work in Central Maryland, Howard, Montgomery, and there's some that the public that community isn't inclined probably to want to see that kind of thing in school. So totally get it. But in the different parts of the state,
What is the data, Ron, about how many schools that do?
I don't have the exact percentage, but I would say about 20 to 25% do have some. We included some, and when I listed some, almost every school system has some handheld metal detectors. They're little wands. And they're used a lot, yeah, at athletic events. I see them quite a bit. So we included that because that's what it is. It's a weapons detection device. So some have that, but as far as the ones we're talking about really and how this bill came about was those walk-through metal detectors that you see. Right. And now if you go to any venue or any sporting event, they're there. So only about, I would say 15-20% have something like that, either through a camera system that's innocuous, you don't really see that working. It's an AI-powered an algorithm that recognizes a weapon in someone's hand, so it's not something you walk through. Or they have the walk-through metal detectors that you see all the time that a lot of companies have.
Is that 15 to 20% of the LEAs have something in some schools?
Yes. The vast majority have said no. Right. But we have wands, they have the hand. So I'm still parsing the numbers a little bit, but the big systems that work in the entire school system, the entire school, right. It's only about maybe 20%.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
one of the things we heard back from the LEAs initially on this was a concern, is the bill intended, right? Is the outcome of the bill to be that we're gonna have to have a weapons detection system in every school? And if so, how in the world are we gonna fund that? Because there's not enough grant funding to do, some of the systems that are out there are $100,000 a piece. There's some much less than that, 10, 20,000. But imagine if you have 209 schools like Montgomery County, and every school has multiple doors, right, that they would have to be in. So I think that was one of the concerns from the LEAs, right? Is this sort of a precursor to thou shall put? I don't really think it is. I think it's more trying to help them as well as the legislature understand what is already being used in the state, what other systems might be used in other states, or other sort of type of venues, right? Sporting events, things like that, amusement parks. What of all of that technology that exists, are there some things that maybe school systems would be interested in? So I think it was more intended to sort of help the legislature understand what the landscape looks like, and also maybe help the LEAs understand also what the landscape looks like, what other available options there are. Next slide. So this is really the timeline. So the first report's due December 1st, and that'll really focus on the outcome of the survey and the meetings with the LEAs. So that's sort of gap between July and October. So Ron's really digging into the survey results and those meetings with the LEAs. And then we'll draft the report. Once that report is drafted and published, I'll certainly share the December report with you. It is our report, so it's not one the subcabinet would need to approve. Then beginning in January is when we're going to start meeting with the vendors. So Jan's leading that part of the study. So we'll be meeting individually with as many. So originally when the bill was drafted, it was really broad. It was like, and I think the way it was worded was any weapons detection system in existence, which is incredibly broad and probably not very appropriate. So we did get them to trim that back to widely accepted. So these are systems that are widely accepted throughout the nation being used in this capacity within either higher ed or schools. So we'll do all the meetings with those vendors through most of next year, and then complete a final report by December of 26. We have partnered with Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab because they're doing a lot of this work on the federal level. So we partnered with them on the technical aspects. So hopefully we'll get, I hope we submit a report that everyone is happy with at the end of 2026, but I'm sure if not, we will hear about it.
So Kate, there was a piece of 782 related to what was publicly, what would be information made publicly available versus not.
That is correct.
Clarify that.
Yes, thank you. So the report, the statute includes protections for the data specific to individual school systems. So we will not publish publicly any specific data about systems inside a particular school or school system. What we will publish is generally, these are the 5 systems being used throughout the state. We're not going to identify which counties are using them. We will probably go with something, once we see all the data, we'll probably end up going with like percentages or where they're being used across the state, but that's a really good point. Originally, it was it was in the statute, but it was not prescriptive. It was not clear that the data was to be protected, and we got that added back in as well. So they're protected under public information disclosure. Any questions?
This is a lofty, heavy.
This is yes. And so as you recall, we worked very closely on this because it was originally going to be the department's project.
It was. We decided it was not in our area of expertise.
Yes. But we are,
Thank you.
happy to assist, although now looking back, maybe not the best idea. Yes, it is an incredibly, it's a really big project. The team has been doing a lot of work on this. We've sort of created 4 work groups right? Sort of the team to do the planning and the plan development. And then we've got sort of the LEA group, the one doing the surveys with the LEAs, the technical group, and then actually at the request of the LEAs and our team, we also have a team who's looking at the non-technical side of these systems, right? So the impacts of these systems to either schools, personnel, or students that are not technical in nature. In other words, is there another underlying impact to having weapons detection systems in schools? So we'll have a piece of that in both reports as well.
There are specific questions about students voice any concerns about the appearance of this stuff. Any questions about privacy from parents? Most of these, not most of them, yeah, majority of them use some kind of image, even if it's a walk-through metal detector. So where do those images go? Who sees them? Where are they stored? There's a lot of questions, and so we go, we're trying to go in depth on that, so it's just how does the staff feel about it? Does this change their appearance of the school? Like, is it safe or not safe? So we delve into a little more of that.
It's an important point. Sounds good. More to come, right?
More to come.
Okay. All right. Last item, after action summaries.
So you all should have received ahead of this, as well as at the table if you're here, our after action summaries for the 2024-2025 school year. So as you all know, or should know, we are required to be notified, the center is required to be notified by the school systems when a critical life-threatening incident occurs on school grounds. So in the process of that ties to a statute. That statute, we promulgated regulations to help clarify school grounds, what a critical life-threatening incident is. And so this summary report is the incidents that we received for the last school year. And I believe, I'm going to forget the number off the top of my head, it was about 17 in total, 16 or 17 in total. But I'm just going to run through sort of the common themes throughout. If you actually look at the attached report or the report I sent you, we number all of our CLTs. All of our CLT summary reports are available on our website. So if you have a particular interest in one of the items, you can actually pull up that CLT and read them directly on our website. So, some key findings. So, interagency coordination and the incident command system. This came up multiple times in quite a few of the after-action reports that were submitted. And this is really the importance of school systems building those partnerships with their response agencies and identifying who is in what position as far as the incident command system is concerned when responders come on school grounds. Because for the majority of incidents on a school ground, the first responders are the staff at the school. So until other responders get to the school, it's really incumbent on the school and the school system to identify who is going to be taking the lead, and then once those responders come in, how they're doing that coordination, right? How they're going to integrate into either a unified command or within the incident command system. The second is communication. So the ability for school systems to communicate both internally with parents and the outside world, as well as with responders. So really building on your capabilities for communication, both not just technically, right? Like, how are we going to have this? Are we going to use radios? Are we going to use cell phones? Are we going to use email? Are we going to use our alert system? but also the type of information that's being communicated, right? And the ability for, or the, not the ability, but the importance of ensuring that they're eliminating incorrect information that might be being shared. Next slide. Training and drills, the importance of regular exercising, regular practice, regular training of staff and personnel and students and parents and responders. So our guidelines related specifically to active assailant and lockdown drills talk about, so the law restricts responders and real life simulation of an active assailant incident as part of a drill. So we don't allow, the state does not allow that, but our guidelines talk about how they can still do that and continue those practices day to day, even if it's not during school hours, right? After hours, they can bring responders in, they can bring volunteers in, and they can regularly practice their response procedures and response protocols. The improvement, continuous improvement through after action reviews. So not only are these required by law, they're also really good practice. So even for non-emergencies, so we've developed an after action tool which we have available on our website, which is publicly available, so anyone can use it. And it allows them to think through questions regardless of what the incident is. So whether it's an emergency incident or it's they just finished graduation and they want to talk about, hey, how did our planning go for graduation? Did everything work out well? So it's a tool to help them sort of walk through those questions. And so the fact that they're doing these after action reviews came up in several of the CLTs that we received this year. Next slide. So well-being and support, so that need for schools and school systems to build those trusting relationships. So trusted relationships between the students and the staff or a trusted adult, promoting anonymous reporting systems, providing mental health supports and services. There was even one, so within here, there's a piece related to crisis intervention teams. So one of the CLTs, the school system, realized that the staff were struggling and needed support and assistance, so they brought in the crisis intervention team from the police department to provide the services to the adults, while the adults were providing services to the students. So some really good best practices that have come out of some of these incidents. We are seeing still an increase in anonymous online threats. That has helped school systems realize the importance of the school and law enforcement agencies working together when these threats come in, and partnering with some of the content owners, right? So those social media companies where some of these threats are coming in so that they can get more detailed information on who's potentially posting these threats online. Next slide. Yeah, consistent terminology. So this has come up, and we are going to continue to promote the need for standard response protocols. So the I Love You Guys Foundation, it's free. It's available to all school systems in the nation. It's also available to higher ed as well as businesses that are promoting. We actually had the Department of General Services in the state of Maryland has started posting the I Love You Guys standard response protocols in their buildings, in state-owned buildings. We have seen both in our tabletop exercises and real-world events where we still have schools or school systems using confusing terminology, right? So they have lockdown, and then they have a modified lockdown, where they have lockdown, and then they have a medical lockdown. And so our hope, right, is to get every school in the state of Maryland to be using these standard response protocols, so that if you are in Carroll County, my kid's school in Carroll County, and they call for a secure, and it goes over the news and gets heard in Baltimore County, there's no confusion. Everybody in the state knows it's secure, knows what it means, and that we're keeping bad things from getting in the school, but the school is functioning normally. Because I think what we've been seeing with these is this continued, media's reporting one thing, right? And the school is under a secure, which is just there's something happening in the community, and we want to keep the bad thing from getting in the school, and the media reports it as a lockdown, which is the worst case scenario, right? That's the one that we hope never happens in the school. So we are going to continue to push our schools and school systems in the state to move toward this common terminology. Infrastructure and technology. So this one is ties to one of the grants that is new this year, which is our facility mapping grant. So up-to-date floor plans for responders. We'll have a grant next year specific to internal communications, so the ability for communication channels to be working inside school buildings. As you all know, many of our school buildings are not new, so they're not built for signals. They don't always have the boosters, the Wi-Fi antennas, and all of the other technical terms that I'll leave to Jan to explain if anybody has a question. But that has come up multiple times in several CLTs. And I will say, these common, although all for last year, these are no different than after action items that came up the year before and the year before that. So these are common situations that continue to occur. The next one, I think that's it. So happy to answer any questions about the CLTs. Like I said, you have the report that gives you a pretty good summary of the CLTs for this year. And then all of the CLT summaries that we publish are all available on our website, going back to the first year, which I think was 2019. So again, it's another piece that the LEAs are responsible to do, but also our team, particularly our regional staff, are responsible for summarizing that key data from those LEAs. So it is, it's incredibly helpful. It's going to help inform Gifty as she ties to the grants for next year. So there are some really good self-identified, because the LEAs identified them themselves, so self-identified areas that they know that they need to work on.
This is really helpful. I can make copies if you had some extra copies lying around.
Yep.
Put in my hand. I'll share them with my team and share it with the superintendent. I think she would be interested in seeing this, but it is really valuable. We always learn. And some of the things that we learn are so like, why didn't we think about that? But in the midst of things that happen, it's really important that, so really good job.
And you have the electronic version too, but I can give you some.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
so don't worry. I can get it for the electronic version. Any? Oh, there they go. It's like magic. Thank you. Thanks. We have so much electronically. But any questions, comments? Good job. Thank you. I think there might be, yes. All right, so we have meetings ahead. So October 14th is virtual as needed for the grants. Is that it? So mainly, you would assume, what's the date, the deadline for the grants?
September 30th.
Yeah, so there's very possibly you'll have grants to approve. And we'll need a quorum to approve those, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And that one is a Tuesday because of the holiday. And it's virtual. So 2 key points. It's a Tuesday and it's virtual.
And, holiday.
The Mondays.
I see. Oh. Yeah. Listen, I wanted hour to hour. Way from day. I would say day to day, but it's gotten worse than that. And so November 17th is in person here, Monday, February 9th virtual, and May 11th in person. So thank you for that. I think that is it on the agenda. So do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you. We have Secretary Beatty will take the online as the second to that. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm getting one, so I'll say opposed. Any abstentions? So the meeting is adjourned, but I do want to thank all of you. You just are such a formidable group, Kate and your team, and all the work that you do. And I think that I just want to say it's appreciated because it is all about the safety of our students. And you mentioned faculty and as the having mental health response team that goes into schools when there is trauma. Because they're folks that people don't know, they generally work with the adults. So because it is impactful, as we know, whether it's a loss or an event. So thanks for what all of you do. It's appreciated. And with that, you have a little bit of time before all the kiddos come back to school. Enjoy. Right? You had you leave, right? All right. Thanks. You're good.
Thank you.
Thank you all online.
Thanks.